So I'm Darren Bright. I am a senior leader in business development, and it's interesting when you hear titles from different people, exactly what that really means. For me, I actually lead a software development team where we try to identify problems before they occur and actually create solutions so that they don't actually happen. And actually, a lot of my time is spent educating people, teaching people, working with people in order to solve those problems, not just the solution we create, but also the benefits for people and for businesses. For me, when I started as a young age, my neighbour too, we worked for a company called British Telecom, and he was a technology person who gave me a passion for electronics and science. And as I went through school, I really enjoyed maths and science and sports. In fact, I used to run a 100-meter sprint for my county. And back in that day, the schools didn't really have support for people. So I really had to push myself forward. So being a self-motivator for many things, I think being able to push yourself into things and try things is very important. Another thing I found is the teachers themselves, that they're really helpful. I had an excellent physics teacher that really got me even more excited about physics, and I ended up majoring that as I went through college. And I also enjoyed the clubs. I joined an electronics club, and I also managed to gain access to the school computer system after school and during lunchtime. And at that time, the school had 2 computers total. That's all there was, which made me think of Bill Gates, where he managed to gain access to his school computer when he was younger. And he went on to build the largest software computer company in the world. I didn't actually follow that path. But when I was in school, I wanted to be a policeman. And I kind of had that idea, and I worked towards that and passed the qualifications and did become a policeman. And it taught me a number of different skills, and one of which was actually working with other people, how to defuse situations rather than escalate issues. And that interaction with people and helping people was really one of the things that I really enjoyed about it. I did actually get an opportunity afforded to me, and I left the police force and joined the Royal Air Force in the training branch, where I then was taught and became a teacher of things like navigation, principles of flight, survival techniques, marksmanship, canoeing, abseiling, taught lots of different topics to lots of people. And I found that we had a mechanism of motivating people to learn a particular topic. And if you can motivate yourself, I would say it's a better way of doing it. But in this instance, it's quite funny that in navigation, we would teach people how to read a map so well that we would actually take people out on a helicopter or a truck and drop them at the top of a mountain. And they would need to navigate their way to a certain destination in a period of time. And the only way of getting there in pitch black, reading their map, was to go down a 2-foot wide path down a cliff face. Now, if you didn't learn how to do it, there was a shorter way down that cliff face, but that's not the way you really wanted to go down it. But anyway, so thinking about motivation and moving forward. After that, I did have another great opportunity, and I actually changed roles from the Air Force and went and joined IBM. And at that time, that was the big computer company in the world. So that was a great opportunity for me, and I grabbed onto that. I then started to really invigorate my skills and knowledge and excitement about computers and technology. And very quickly, within 2 years, became the European specialist, again, teaching and educating more people all about the technology and the benefits and what it can do for people. I found I was really interested in technology and being on the leading edge of technology. And I actually changed from IBM, went to a small startup company that was actually creating, inventing new technology. And that was successful because another big computer company called Cisco bought the company I was working for. And again, I then became a teacher, training more people about new technology. I then went on to continue to develop more things, and I helped create Cisco's telepresence technology, which is video conferencing across the internet, which is kind of what we're doing now. The technology that I helped create is actually being used on things like Jimmy Kimmel Show and Ellen DeGeneres. And if you're familiar with the Mars, recently NASA landed a rover on Mars. The communication they used there was the video conferencing as well that we developed nearly 20 years ago now. So and now obviously we're all using this stuff. So working for Cisco, another thing is how quick technology can change. And it's not just technology, but the world itself can change very quickly. So things we think about now may not be around later, and there's lots of new things. there was one week I actually learned a brand new technology, and the following week I was presenting it to 10,000 people. That's how quick things can move on. So don't shut yourself down. There's a lot more things that are going to be happening and going forward. After Cisco, I then moved to Microsoft, which is how I relocated here to the Northwest, where we are currently living. And I was leading a technology group, again, driving that out to customers, the benefits of how that technology can benefit individuals and businesses as well. So after that, I actually moved back to Cisco doing the role that I'm currently doing. And I actually lead this team. Again, a lot of it is teaching people and helping people set up the services. There was one little joke, actually, I'll add in here, that although I've been doing this technology for a long time, and think of my title, people don't necessarily understand what it is. One of my own children actually asked my wife to help fix a problem on her iPad, because the mother's obviously going to know much more about technology than I would. So if I was going to go back and talk to my earlier 13-year-old self, I would probably want to tell myself to think about these opportunities. The opportunities are there, and you will be surprised at what you can do. Don't put yourself down and think, I can't do that. You will probably find that everyone else going for that job will be thinking the same thing. Grab opportunities when you have them, and then thinking about your career. Four steps or questions I would say. Think about, what do you love doing? If you think of and there's probably lots of things you enjoy doing. The next thing is what are you actually good at doing? And if you put those two together, that becomes your passion in life, that you enjoy doing this stuff and you're really good at doing it. And there could be multiple things that you're looking at doing. The next question to ask when you're thinking about a career, what can I get paid to do doing those things that I enjoy? And there are lots of jobs out there that I don't know all the jobs there are in the world. You're going to find those, and you've got the power of Google. You can go out and search and find the different types of jobs with those skill sets. And then the last thing is what does the world need? There are things that are happening today that may not be happening tomorrow. There are new things that are coming along, and technology, the world is changing. So what does the world need? If you think of those 4 steps, that can help narrow down the type of career and the type of job that you want to do. And there's lots of different jobs that do the same thing. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Steve. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Stephen Becker. I am what is known as a technical program project manager. I help teams that at companies that develop software, and their personalities tend to be those that are less focused on building relationships and things like that. And so with a company that has 140 teams that can work on a project together, those development teams really focus on the work actually that needs to be done. And I focus on making sure that everybody's talking to each other and everything they need is available for them. And how I got into this field was when I was very young, probably about 5 years old, I saw a computer at my school. And this was really the first time I'd ever seen a computer before. And this was really the first time that computers started to become more available to the rest of the world outside of business. And a PC, a personal computer that's small enough. And so I'd seen that, and I kind of played around with it at school. And from that age, I knew that I wanted to work in computers. And so as I grew up and to the point where I'm about your guys' age, I learned of jobs that were actually in the computer field. And what I wanted to do was become a computer programmer, what we referred to as that time, what you guys may know now or may not know, but what our industry would refer to as a software engineer. And so as I got into high school, the big company out there was Microsoft, and I wanted to go work for Microsoft. And I grew up in Southern California, so right after high school, went to college, and at that time, there wasn't a lot of classes and things out there for me to be able to go take that would teach me, software programming, software development. And so college didn't work out for me, and I left and kind of became self-taught on my own, moved up to Seattle and went to work for Microsoft. And because I didn't have some, huge degree or, anything like behind me, I actually started at Microsoft as what's known as a customer service rep, where, just answering phones for people who have issues. and walk them through on how to use Word and Excel and stuff like that. But while I was there, took the opportunity to speak with people, to get to know people, and eventually became um, a software developer. And after a couple of years of doing that, I saw the person that was leading all this, determining what goes into releases, what teams work on, and so on. And I was like, that's really what I want to do. I want to be the kind of the person in charge of this rather than somebody doing pieces that they want done. And so I then took the time to learn how to do that and became that. In about 2009, you guys are probably much too young to remember this, but our economy was bad, and there was a bunch of layoffs, and I was one of those. And I bring this up because at that time, I had a ton of experience behind me, but I didn't have a degree. And so, with a lot of people out in this area that did the exact same thing as me, we're all applying for the same jobs. I would get eliminated from job pools or from applications immediately because with so many people applying for the same job, recruiters have to pare down um, their list to figure out who. And so one of the first things they do is, hey, give me somebody with a degree. And so I was being eliminated immediately. And so at that time, I said, I need to go back to school. And I did. And so in my early 30s, I went back to school, and school was so much easier then. I struggled through school, through middle school, through high school, and then my early years in college. The structure just didn't work out for me. If I basically just didn't do my homework. Good thing they had tests because that helped me well enough where I could actually pass classes. And so I go back to college, and like I said, it's a breeze. And then so I eventually end up back at Microsoft, and I follow. One of my friends comes over to the company that I'm at right now called SAP Concur, and I eventually start working here. And so I guess as far as like advice and things like that to you guys, there's probably a lot of kids that were a lot like me that struggled with school and the type of learning that happens there. It may not fit how you do how you learn best. And so it's important to know that through high school, from right now through high school, through college, through your early 20s, it's important to enjoy them. Try to figure out what you want to do because you're going to end up doing it for a long time, and you are not going to have the opportunity to have as much fun. But also at the same time, realize that things will change. If you're struggling now, it can become very easy later on, as it did for me. But I would say my advice to you guys is go to college and have fun there, and then figure out what to do after that. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you both. We have a question from a student. They want to know, how many coding languages do you need to know?
It's funny. Yeah, I think one of the things that Darren said earlier was how technology changes quickly. When I started, way back when, you learned either, if you were going to go work in a big company, you needed to know COBOL. That was like one of the classes they started teaching, and you guys, may never even heard of this, and it's a very boring language. It's like, no, I don't want to know COBOL, right? Yeah, I wanted to work on, and that's like mainframe stuff. And so as far as that, it changes, and I would say even with the last 10 years or so, I mean, languages pop up all the time, and you can go from Perl to Java to so many different things. I would say you just need to find out what you like, and if there's a company that you want to work at, find out what they use, because even within my company, I can go from different teams and they could be using different technologies because they just find it works best for them. And so there is no number out there of like how many you need to know. You just need to know the ones that you enjoy working with, and you need to know the ones that will help you to work where you want to work.
Darren, did you have anything to add to that question? Or
I mean, my team, I've got a team around the globe, and there's people that write in different languages, and the different languages lend themselves to different technologies. So depending on which language you learn, there's a different mindset. So there's front-end technologies where you may surface things in a web browser. There's back-end technologies that create automations. There's applications that can write between them. You can use API calls between the services. So starting somewhere is a good step, wherever it happens to be. And then as you get into it, you'll learn more. And over time, you'll decide you prefer this than prefer that and migrate into them. But there's roles in all of the different languages.
Okay, and then what do you think's the greatest advice a mentor has given to you?
For me, I would say one of the things that I did early on in my career that I'm in now, program project management, is I went out and developed this huge, analytics dashboard and stuff like that, and I nailed it, and so sent it out, put it out there, and it flopped because the organization's like, I went to talk to my manager, and he's like, yeah, no, it's correct. He's like, but he's like, let me get you, and you go talk with these people, they're leaders in the organization. And so what I'd learned from this, because I went and talked to them, and we kind of redid the project, and not much actually changed from what I originally worked on. But what I did was I worked alone, and I didn't go and talk to other people, and I didn't make people feel like they were involved with what I was doing. And so my area of expertise, I need people to have ownership of what I deliver. And so for me, that big piece of advice was, don't work inside of a vacuum. Work with other people, and get different perspectives and views. And whether they're different from yours or not, they then feel like they own part of what you're delivering. And so it becomes part of that is relationship management. And so I'd say don't work inside a vacuum, learn to work with other people. And I think that was kind of the biggest piece of advice that's helped me.
Yeah, I agree. Working with people, the means of communication will help you, whether that's career progression within an organization, whether that's as people change jobs into different organizations, you then know people in other organizations will help you get jobs in other areas. Connectivity, it's a very small world. You'll find you'll know people in lots of different places and build those relationships. It does make a huge difference.
And we have a student who also wants to know if Stephen helped develop Minecraft, because your background is Minecraft.
No, I wish I would have. That would have been great. But no.
We have about 1 minute left. So I just want to thank you guys for presenting to the kids, and thank you for asking your questions. Because each question.
One thing, I would say that where I've said about your passion and what excites you is, especially at your age, take the opportunity to learn lots of things, expose yourself to things that you've never done before, because you may find something that is even more exciting than you already know. And it's the passion, it's those things that excite you that is going to drive you through your life. So if I went back to when I was younger, I'd tell myself to learn more things, to expose myself to more, because I've then grown as I've gone through my career to get to where I am.
That's great. Okay, so students, you'll be heading into the very last room for the day. And so you're going to be leaving here and going into that.
Okay. All right, I'm going to let them all in. All right, good morning / afternoonish, you guys. I am Mrs. Wheeler. I just want to introduce myself. I'm your teacher host in the room today. I'm out at Timbercrest Middle School. But just a reminder, as you guys come into the room, we would love to see you on screen. It helps us. And when you have someone to talk to and you can see their face, it's always so much better. But if that's not a possibility, just remember we are still talking to you guys. If you guys can do us a huge favor in any questions that you might possibly have for our speakers, if you can put those into the chat and direct those towards Diana Christensen, that would be fantastic. That way we can make sure that those questions get to our speakers. So I'll introduce Diana Christensen. I think she waved in the corner there for us. And then we have, Darren Pryke here today and Stephen Becker here today to speak to you guys about their careers. So I'm going to introduce Darren first, and I'm going to let you have the show. So.
Thank you very much, and hello everyone. I'm Darren Pryke, and my role is Senior Leader in Business Development. And one thing I would say is the titles of people doesn't necessarily represent what they're doing, so don't always just be worried about what a job happens to be. For me, I actually lead a software development team globally, and we try to identify problems before they occur and come up with solutions and resolutions. And we're teaching people, users and companies, the benefits of technology and how it can actually influence things and hopefully solve problems going forward. So it's very broad remit, and the title doesn't necessarily represent it. If I go back to when I was younger, I think for me being influenced, I had a neighbour that worked for a company called British Telecom, the telephony company in the UK, and he was in electronics and science, and he kind of got me excited about those types of technologies. And in school, I really enjoyed science and math and sports. In fact, I used to run a 100-meter sprint for my county. And at that time, the teachers and the schools didn't really sponsor you or help you. So I really had to push myself and motivate myself to be representing the county for the 100-meter sprint. I would say that the teachers themselves have a huge impact on you, and sort of think about how they can help you. I had an excellent physics teacher who really got me even more excited about physics, even though I was already interested in science in general. And I then ended up majoring in physics as I went through college. While I was in school, I also joined things like the electronics club, and I managed to gain access just myself to the school computer. Well, there were two computers the school had at that point, a massive two, which made me kind of think about how Bill Gates managed to get access to his school computer when he was younger, and Bill Gates went on to form Microsoft, the largest software computer company in the world. I didn't follow that route because although I was interested in it, I actually wanted to be a policeman. So I studied and passed the exams to become a policeman. Which did teach me a number of good lessons. It taught me about how to socialize with people, how to de-escalate interactions and situations rather than escalate them and cause more problems, which was really beneficial. I think it's helpful throughout our career to be thinking of those types of things. The next thing is I had an opportunity to join the Royal Air Force in the training division, which I reached out and grabbed that opportunity. I was taught a lot of things there, and I actually became an instructor in principles of flight, navigation, survival techniques, marksmanship, canoeing, abseiling, all sorts of different services. And interesting, the way in which the focused minded people to learn something. We would take people out at night time in pitch black to the mountain, either a helicopter or a truck, and drop them off on the top of the mountain. And to make sure that they'd learn the navigation that we were teaching them, the only way of getting down, and they had a direction to get to a certain destination in a period of time, was off of a cliff face which had a 2-foot wide pathway. If you hadn't learned the navigation, there was a very short way down that cliff, and that's not the route you wanted to be taking. So that was a means of focusing people to learn something. But I would suggest if you can motivate yourself, it's a much better way than having to be forced to do something that way. From there, I also had another great opportunity to join IBM. So changing career from policeman Air Force to joining IBM, which was at the time the biggest computer company in the world. And when I learned lots of new technologies, it rekindled my excitement about science and computers that I had when I was younger. And I very quickly, in 2 years, became the specialist for Europe and was teaching people about technology and how that could benefit them. So again, interacting with people, teaching people, bit of a theme coming through. I also found I was really interested in leading edge technology, inventing new things and right on the leading. And that led me to leave IBM and join a startup company. And a startup company is a small company where you're inventing new things and coming up with new ideas. We were very successful and were actually bought by another big company called Cisco, a big computer company. And at Cisco, I then, for the next few years, was running around Europe teaching people all about wonderful new technologies. I then moved on and actually was working in developing some new technologies and created how to communicate with video across the internet. And that really wasn't happening beforehand. And that technology is now being used around the world with things like you might see on the Jimmy Kimmel Wall of Fame, the Ellen DeGeneres show. And if you were aware, just recently, NASA landed a rover on Mars, and the communication from that was all carried out across the internet and video conferencing that we created. So from there, the other thing I think is how quick things change. So in technology, we know technology changes quickly, but the whole world is changing no matter what it happens to be. But as an example of this, there was 1 week I actually learned a new technology, And literally the next week, I was in Greece presenting to 10,000 people about how this technology was going to help people and move things forward. So you can move very, very quickly through services and things. So I moved from Cisco to Microsoft, which is then relocated me here to the US. That was another great opportunity for me. And again, doing this video conferencing, you may have heard of Skype. That was the technology in that area. And after working with Microsoft for a time, I actually then moved back to Cisco and doing this role that I'm doing at the moment. An interesting little story, thinking about how much technology that I'm involved in, and these job titles not really meaning anything. One of my children asked my wife to help her fix a problem on the iPad because she wanted someone that knew something about technology. Obviously, that wasn't me. So if I was to go back to my 13-year-old self and give myself advice on how to do things, I would say thinking about your passions and things that you're excited about, but taking opportunities. Don't turn yourself down and think that you can't do something. It's amazing when you're looking at a job offer or an opportunity, many other people are thinking that they may not be able to do it as well. And it's only when you get in there you realize that you can actually do those things, and you could do a lot more than you probably suspect you could. So thinking about the career you might want to do, I'd suggest there's 4 kinds of things to think about. Number 1 is, what do you love doing? If you really enjoy doing something, that's going to give you more interest to do it. The next thing is you'll probably love lots of things, but what are you actually good at doing? If you're good at doing something and you love doing it, that's really your passion. And again, you could have multiple things, but that's the passion you want to identify. The next step you want to do is think about, what can I get paid doing the things that I'm passionate about? And there are lots of jobs out there. Job titles don't necessarily mean, but there are so many different jobs. I don't know what all the jobs are that would be able to use the skills and things that I'm excited about. When I was younger, we didn't have Google. You can do a lot more research now with Google, looking for the types of things that excite you, and you'll find there are lots of different jobs that potentially you could find doing those things. The next thing, if you're thinking about career in one direction or another, the last question I would say is, what does the world need? Because there's things that are happening today that won't be happening tomorrow. And there are new things that are starting, and you will give you a future and something that you can drive towards. So those 4 steps: what do you love? What are you good at? And that's your passion. Finding something you can get paid doing those things. And lastly, what's going to have a future? What does the world need to do that? And then that'll find more opportunities for you going forward. With that, I'm going to hand over to Stephen, and thanks everyone for your time.
Thank you, Darren. Hello, my name is Stephen Becker. I am a technical program / project manager at a company called SAP Concur. What I do specifically is I would work with teams like Darren's team, the engineering team, software development. And while at my company, we have 140 teams that work together. And while the engineering teams focus on the development and things like that, the other portion that needs to happen is what I focus on. And I focus on the relationships between the team, making sure that everybody's coordinating with each other, talking with each other, and aligning to each other's schedules and things like that. And anything that we tend to run into is something that blocks them from being able to move forward. I take and I go figure out how to resolve. And how I came into this field is, when I was very young, about 5 years old, I saw a computer for the first time at my school. And this is the very, very first time that computers were becoming more accessible to people. This was like the beginning of PCs, personal computers. Homes didn't have them, not like now. And so I saw that, and I played around with that, and I knew that that was something I wanted to do growing up, but I didn't know what type of jobs there were or anything like that. And so when I was about your age, I learned about what we referred to back then as a computer programmer. What we know now, or what we call now, is a software engineer or development engineer. And so that's what I wanted to do. And so, I went through high school learning that, seeing that Microsoft was the big software company, and everything, that's where I wanted to go work. And so I, left high school, went into college, and really they didn't have a whole lot of classes and education around like PC development, PC software development, stuff like that. And so school didn't really work out for me. So I kind of left on my own. I grew up in Southern California, and I moved up to Seattle area, and I started working at Microsoft as what's known as a customer service rep, where I basically just answered phones and helped people that were having problems with things like Word and Excel. And while I was there, I took the opportunity to really, I'd learned some things on my own as far as software development, but I took the opportunity to learn, to work with people and learn software development, and eventually became a software engineer there. After a couple of years of doing that, I had decided what I really wanted to do was seeing the person who was kind of in charge and managing the projects and development and everything like that. They were the ones that were telling us what to put into a release, what's a priority to go work on. And so, she would show, she was the one who was determining these things, and that's what I really wanted to do. And so I then worked with people who were in that field. I eventually became a program project manager. Worked there until 2009 doing that. You guys are much young to maybe remember this, but in 2009 we had a huge issue with the economy, and a lot of people lost their jobs. I was one of them that was laid off from Microsoft. And I'm telling this story because what I experienced after is what I want you to know, because it's important, is that there was a lot of people with the same type of skills as me. One thing I didn't have that they all had was a degree. And while I knew exactly what I was doing and I was good at what I did, a recruiter will see hundreds of resumes, and the way that they pare that down is one of the first things they do is, hey, we give you somebody with a degree. And so I would immediately be eliminated from jobs because there's just there was a lot of applicants that had a degree and I didn't. So I went back to school. And this time when I went to school, it was so much easier than the first time I went. And I breezed through it, and I got my degree, and I ended back at Microsoft, and eventually ended up at SAP Concur, where I'm at now. And I think one of the things that I want you guys to know and learn, and it's important to know, is when I was your age and in high school, I hated school. I wasn't good at it. It wasn't a structure that worked well for me. I wasn't good at doing homework. I was great at tests, and good thing they had tests, because that was enough for me to pass classes. And then I talked about going to college, and that just it wasn't great for me. And so, but what I would tell you guys is, being where I'm at now and everything like that, use the time in high school, use the time in college. You're going to experience a lot of things. Enjoy all that. Go experience those things. Have fun there. Realize that things may be difficult now. They may be difficult a bit later, but eventually you'll, with work and just continue to try, you'll figure out how to navigate things and how to become better at them and how to make them suited better for you. But enjoy high school, enjoy your early 20s, because after that it's less fun. But go to college, get your degree, don't end up where, in a situation like I was, where you were just kind of being weeded out just because you didn't have it. And then make sure when you're there, enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen and Darren. If you guys have any questions for them, go ahead and put it in the chat and I will get those asked. So Darren, can you describe a challenging situation that you've been in and how you had to resolve it? Or Stephen?
Sure. Is Darren here anymore?
Get kicked out.
Yeah, that's what Darren gets for not paying attention, guys. So a challenging situation. There's lots of challenges. Yeah, one of the things that I experienced early on is, and I think a lot of people will experience this, and it's going to happen to everybody. It's not anything particular to you, but there are going to be people along the way that they're very disagreeable. They will challenge many of the things that you say. And so what's important to do is learn other people's communication styles, how they like to interact with you, how they like to be interacted with. And so, what I did along those lines is, when I had people like that, because that may sometimes make work, difficult, is instead of coming into a large group setting, where now I'm throwing out questions to people and knowing that this person is going to be say something disagreeable to me, I'd actually meet with them beforehand. know everything that they're going to say. I would give them the opportunity to tell me all the things that are wrong with something. And so, when I would go into that situation, I knew what they were going to say. And at that time, they were less likely to say anything challenging something that I was doing, because we have already had that conversation and there's no reason for them to bring it up. And we may have already talked through it. And so what's important I think to know is, and that goes to something that I'd tell everybody, one of the most important skills to have is called relationship management. Is I knew how this person interacted with people. I knew how he'd interact in situations. So I learned how to manage that in a way that would benefit me. And I guess that's a difficult situation that I've had, and how I got through it.
Yeah. Okay, well, it looks like Darren might be back. He's muted. So, hey, there he is. We have a question from Johan. She or he asks, what should we do if we are a manager and we have a hard time with favoritism? And I'm not sure if they mean they are the manager and they have a favorite, but maybe if you're the employee and your manager has a favorite or something like that.
Interesting question. Most large companies, HR department have policies against that type of thing happening. It could be that there's other people within the company, not necessarily the direct manager, and you could talk to your manager about that happening. If it is your direct manager, typically the HR departments will be able to handle those things. Now, I would say that that's where you get to the extreme level of things. There's often ways of actually handling it directly yourself and talking, either addressing that directly with the manager, because it's typically the manager's job to be able to manage the team, and if they've got people having issues. Now, the only thing being is, depending on how you would address it, is what the outcome might be. But communication is very good, and you could start that relationship up. If you start communicating and build the relationship up, they could then favor you, sort of thing. I'm not saying you should try to get favoritism over someone else, but it could build your stature up with the person that's managing. But most companies would have policies against there being some favoritism or another.
Yeah. So we have about 2 minutes left. So I was wondering, what's one important skill that you think every person should have?
So I talked about this a little bit earlier, but the most important skill that I use and have is relationship management. Learning to talk with people, learning how they like to be communicated with, developing relationships with people. Because if somebody has a list of things that they've got to go get done, and one of them is yours, and they happen to like you better, they're going to tend to work on your stuff first, and so you become a priority. And so that is the biggest portion of my job, that it's the most important thing, is relationship management.
Darren?
I concur. I think the relationships are a great thing, and it's not just within your team and working at the time you're doing it. Those relationships, other people will change jobs, they'll be working at other companies, and at some point you may want to change job yourselves. It could be whether you're getting promotion within the company, whether you're looking for a job in another company. If you know people, to Stephen's point, when people are looking to recruit, if they know someone and they know they're a good worker, they know them through previous employment, that seriously helps you in moving forward with your career and finding new roles as well. So that's very important. One other thing I would mention, I think is very relevant for the middle school age, is I said at the beginning about what you love and creating your passion. I think at your age, one of the great things to do is to go out and experience a lot more things. Don't just stay in the box that maybe you enjoy skiing. Don't just do skiing all the time. Try something else. Learn all the different things. Expose yourself to more and more things, because you may find there's something else that you love even more, but you don't know until you try things. So try lots of things and then you'll experience it. I learned many of those things as I went through my career. It took me a long time, changing from police to Air Force to computers. Now I'm kind of settled down. I know what I'm doing. A little bit old to be changing my mind now, but if you can experience things now at a young age, it will help you making your decisions going forward.
Thank you to both of you. This was amazing. And I'm glad I got an opportunity to be part of it. This was our last thing, Miss Wheeler.
All right, so students, I'd like to thank our speakers, Darren and Stephen. That was fantastic. That was awesome. I've heard it 4 times and I would listen to it again and again. So I appreciate that. And thank you for being a part of our career day. Students.